Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Dreamhack 2011 Winter Tournament, brought to you by SteelSeries, Azo, Sapphire, and AMD. We are going into a matchup between a player that not many of you have perhaps heard of.
DaBoO, and obviously everybody's heard of Select, but DaBoO was most known for his last Dreamhack Winter performance, where he managed to scrape through in the group stages and actually do rather okay. In his use, he was most known for his use of Bailings in the matchup against Protoss, and everyone's like, what, this doesn't make any sense, but he was doing surrounds with Bailings and so on. And even against Force Fields, he was just baiting Force Fields a lot of the time and then jumping in. But DaBoO is actually this nerd killer, actually, in terms of not in-game, out-game. He's like a jiu-jitsu, karate black belt, boxing black belt, like kickboxing, all this stuff. And he's actually doesn't really play Starcraft 2 full-time, is more of a coach. To be honest, he's if I remember correctly, European champion of jiu-jitsu and bronze medal worlds.
So he's scary for several reasons, although his StarCraft 2 is not necessarily one of them. But one has to note that he did get through the first group phase, which was quite tricky, and now he is in a fairly dangerous group in and of its own right.
Yeah, I mean, he got through the first day yesterday because he only had to play Zerg versus Zerg.
Yeah,
and it's not very demanding on mechanics, and later on, it's all about decision-making, your builds, and so on. And your control as well, obviously, with Zerglings and Bailings. So, you know, he was able to compete with that, even without practicing that much. And even his first game today was Zerg versus Zerg again, which was against Nurture, which he lost 1-2. So, you know, he's very good in Zerg versus Zerg, but now is when the true test comes in. And to be honest, in this tournament so far, it has not been tested yet at all. And against Select, that's clearly going to be a true test.
Yes, it is. Select has been on form for a while. He's performing consistently well in the tournaments that he goes to. He hasn't taken one yet. Obviously, he wants to. And he's came in second at Aces ROG, which was an impressive feat in and of itself. He did not fight easy players to get there. He did not. And he almost won it entirely. So, Select, dangerous player, looking on form, and consistently getting better all the time.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, he's like, in his career, he's had so many second and third places. Yeah, he's a very consistent
almost
player.
mana level like that, isn't he?
He's not like a super winner. Most recently, well, in April was his first win ever, and that was in I-Series in England, the tournament we casted just last weekend.
Yeah.
And that was back in April. Then he went back to second and third for a while, and then he came back on form again at the NA Blizz Invitational, where he managed to beat Sheth in the finals there to actually take a win again. So he did break that little curse he had. And ever since then, he's been in Korea, training in Korea. He's getting better and better and better. Advanced through Code A one time, beating Alicia, then falling down ever since. So is currently out of Code A. Did unfortunately lose his last series versus Tassador, I think. But now he's back here. But the thing is, in Korea, the focus of most foreigners there is to train, not really for GSL.
It's just to train in general.
Like Naniwa's in Code S, I'm like, oh my god, I still can't believe that.
Yeah.
But Select is very focused on training, and he plays a lot in Korea now. And his skills have been put to the test. Second place a couple of weeks ago. And how will he do here? This is the real question.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a look at his really good results, as you said, I-Series, the problem with that particular event is he wasn't really tested. He went up against his teammate, and at that point, nowhere near as good as he is now, Bling, and was able to win there after actually going down to the losers bracket initially. And then, of course, he had an invitational. He's doing well at invitationals, but going through something like this, going through a round of 64, even if he is an invited player, that is tough, and that's what we really want to see from Select, is a win in a tournament of that standard, where he has to go through a lot of very difficult players and prove his metal time. And again, will he be able to do it? Well, this is the best form he's been on for a while, so he's certainly got the best shot at it, and he should have, I wouldn't say a fairly easy start, but it could be a lot worse against Lowland Lions DaBoO.
Yeah, and looking at Select's form yesterday in day one, he beat Abva 2-0. Played really well in those games, actually. And Abva's not a bad player. Well, first of all, he's Russian, so and Russian Zerg's actually really scary. And then after that, he went in to beat Keiru 2-0. Keiru not really expected to do well here, really.
No.
And then Thorzane, he did lose versus Thorzane, but he's always lost versus Thorzane. Like
every time
every tournament he plays, he loses versus Thorzane.
Yeah.
So he did manage to play rather well yesterday. Coming into today, though, these guys have both lost their first game. So this is where it gets difficult, because Select lost versus Sase 1-2, and DaBoO also lost there also.
So you're being insulted by both your teammate and DaBoO, incidentally, in the chat, which is really quite impressive. They've got some kind of alliance going on right there. They're enemies now, but the enemy of enemy is, of course, friend.
So one of them's calling me Kid Apollo, the other one's calling me Justin Bieber.
I'm not sure which is the worst insult.
Yeah, okay.
As we've discussed time and again with all Kid Apollo, that is actually your stripper name.
Yeah, I mean, Chobo Ryan,
Lazy
yes. Brucey, and Kid Apollo. So
yep, the three Dignitas players, they absolutely hate each other in a loving way. It's good. All right, folks. We are ready to go in with Dignitas Select versus Lowland Lions DaBoO. And let's see if DaBoO can actually prove himself here. Okay, I'm just checking that everything's sorted out. And once again, one of these days, Starcraft will not do that. There we go. It is fixed. There we go. And it is my pleasure to bring you Dignitas Select. He is in the red trunks and he is playing Terran. It's the northeast of this particular map, which is, of course, Daybreak versus opponents. Lowland Lions DaBoO. He is in the blue trunks and he is playing Zerg to the southwest.
And there's this common kind of looking at Select. Everybody's like Dawn of War player. Well, to be honest, he was a Dawn of War player, but he came from Warcraft 3.
Yeah, he did.
So he's like a Warcraft 3 player. And everybody, I remember there was threads about, let's have a look at all the Starcraft and Warcraft 3 players, but let's list the guys that didn't come from those games. And everybody kind of listed Select with just Dawn of War, simply because he wanted WCG.
Not really true, because I said the Dawn of War scene didn't exist for a very long time. You got to bear in mind that was the original Dawn of War, not Dawn of War 2, which I believe came out in 2004. So that's a wee bit back now.
Yeah, and Select was playing Warcraft 3 from a very young age, from 2003, well, competitively 2003, 2004, and he used to play on humongous teams like SK. You know, SK back then for Warcraft 3 was a great team to be on.
Oh, yeah.
And Select was a very good player. And actually, Select was living in Korea back then, and it's like there's not a Dawn of War scene in Korea, so he's playing Warcraft 3. But then when WCG came along, Select had more chance to win money and get, obviously, fame winning WCG through playing to a different game. And that game of his choice was Dawn of War.
Yeah.
And he managed to win. He went back to playing Warcraft 3 again, and WCG came around. He's like, well, let's go for it again. And managed to win twice. So he's actually a Hall of Fame within WCG, and basically Hall of Fame is a 2-times champion, up there with players like Boxer, like Grubby. Says it all.
Yeah, he is the man. Dawn of War was a fun game as well. It's kind of a shame that the competitive scene didn't last a little bit longer, but that's just the way that it went. It was a good strategy game in and of its own right before Relic ruined it with the second expansion, but I'm not going to get too bitter on the stream about that one. Necrons, anyone? Anyway, Select moving across the map, and is going to see that the hatchery went down first, and Select generally in this situation will try and apply some kind of pressure. He's been known for bunker rushing and things like that. The question is, will he be able to execute anything here?
Oh, excuse me. But the DaBoO isn't like a player that's up to date with the recent metagame.
Yeah.
And Select is the complete opposite of that, living in Korea. So he may get caught off guard by some simple stuff like a siege tank push without siege mode. You know, that's very recent and something that may actually just kill DaBoO. So he has to be very careful of timings like this. Meanwhile, it looks like DaBoO's playing a very standard style. Hatchery first into spawning pool. Extractor around 17 so he can actually get that gas income. Go for speed and then take off so he can concentrate on his minerals and get that economy flowing. Meanwhile, there is the factory, there is the barracks going down. So we are going to see a Reactor Hellion expansion from Select. And he can basically throw down the expansion on the low ground as well. Hellions give you so much map control. Now on this map, you don't want to really go for that many Hellions here. 4 is okay, 6 is okay, but I'm interested to see what the follow-up is going to be from Select. Is it going to be a push? Select is also known for building a relatively early starport too, but most known for in this matchup is 3 barracks and Medivac straight away.
Yeah, and he gets hyper-aggressive. He plays a lot of bio. Select playing mech. That's a fairly uncommon sight. Yes, he will open up with Hellions because that's really just the way that things are done these days. That is very common in the current metagame of TBC. But then he'll just start throwing down barracks, get the medivacs up, rely purely on Marine Micro. And honestly, his Marine Micro is very, very good.
And a second factory coming down here by Select, and
my oh my.
we are going to have a reactor, so we are going to see a lot of Hellions coming out. And this is something else that's kind of new within the game as well. There's something which DaBoO might not be really up to scratch with. And DaBoO surprisingly still in gas mining with all 3. And as you can see, his gas is skyrocketing right now at 140 supply. And what this may be a case of is that he's going to wait and save the gas to go into double upgrades. But DaBoO's old style was always Moodleless, so I'm a little bit confused by this, and all that gas is definitely not going to help him out against all these Hellions that are coming.
No, it's not. And he's looking to try and deny that Evolution Chamber, which shouldn't happen, really. But the Evolution Chamber's been placed there simply to make it a little bit trickier for Select to get in. There's no way Select can get past that Spine Crawler without taking at least one, probably two hits. I'm very interested to see this. This is double factory, double reactor, red flame. Now, we have seen a double factory build before, but it's usually for blue flame, going 3 Hellions at a time. Going 4 at once is quite an interesting build, and as you said before, it's something that's quite new in the metagame, and DaBoO doesn't really have a way to deal with that. Oh no, that's the worst thing to do in that situation.
It's okay, though. There are links that kind of hold these Hellions in place. Meanwhile, DaBoO is going up to late. Hasn't quite gone into the gas in his main yet, and only just now getting the 4th extractor. And I really think this is going to catch him off guard. This is an Overlord here, which is never going to get this scouting information.
Nope.
And even though he's got Lings out and he's got a Queen and a few Lings, these amount of Lings are not going to hold up the heat against 10 Hellions by no means whatsoever.
Yeah, he's pushing out right now. He gets a surround as well. Select uncharacteristically allowing that one to slip.